In a stunning new interview in The Atlantic, we find Senator Mitt Romney bracing for another Trump presidency. In the new afterword of the book, Romney, A Reckoning, the author McKay Coppins writes, Romney knew that he was likely to appear on any enemies list kept by the former president, and he'd privately mused to friends that it might be time for him and Ann, his wife, to consider moving abroad. Joining me now is McKay Coppins, a former Republican presidential candidate, says he may need to move abroad if Trump wins because he might be prosecuted or his family might be prosecuted. How tongue-in-cheek is it?
Yeah, I mean, I should say up front that this is not something that Mitt Romney wanted to talk about. You know, for this book, I talked to him for 2 years. We talked about a lot of stuff. He was usually very candid with me. When I came to him to interview him for this new afterword in the paperback, I asked him because I had heard from people in his circle that he was really worried about what a Trump re-election would be for him and his family. And I asked him about it, and he didn't want to go there at first. And I think it's in part because he didn't want to set himself up as a martyr. I think he also has understandable security concerns about talking about this stuff too much in public. But once I did get him talking, it was clear that he had thought through the ramifications of a president being reelected who has said that he will use the office to visit retribution, revenge on his political enemies. And Mitt Romney knows that would be on that enemies list. He's worried about protecting his family. He said, you know, I have 25 grandkids. How do you protect 25 grandkids?
Right.
It's a real concern. And I think it's a pretty stark reminder of where we are as a country, that the 2012 Republican presidential nominee is so worried, afraid about what it would mean for his personal safety, his family's safety, if the current Republican nominee wins.
Well, think about the safety of Donald Trump's own vice president.
Yeah.
Mike Pence.
Exactly.
Not exactly, who hasn't endorsed Donald Trump either. So when Romney was asked about this election, you write, quote, still throwing his support behind a president whose policies he'd spent decades fighting against was a difficult thing to do. He told me he wasn't ruling it out. What do you think he's like? I know that this you don't know, and like it's just, but in your gut, how do you think he's going to vote for president?
Oh, it's a good question. I mean, look, when I interviewed him, it was in the spring. Joe Biden was still the Democratic nominee. He actually has a good relationship with Biden. They've become friends. I write about this in the book. He told me he wasn't ruling out at that point endorsing Joe Biden. But he said, you know, the problem is so many of Joe Biden's policies drive me crazy, and I don't want to be seen as endorsing those policies. I haven't gotten to talk to him about Kamala Harris on the record. He's kind of gone quiet, as you know. He's not really giving a lot of interviews anymore.
I know. We're interviewing a guy who talked to Mitt Romney.
And I'm happy.
It's like a Bigfoot sighting in the wild.
I think that if I was, the last two elections, he's written his wife's name in on the ballot. Is it possible that he votes for the Democrat? I think it's possible. I don't know if we would hear about it publicly. But he also believes, and I think this is important context, he does not think his endorsement would make a difference.
Yeah.
He thinks he has so alienated the Republican voters out there that his decision to endorse Kamala Harris would make no meaningful difference.
I don't know that that's true. I mean, I wouldn't tell him what to do one way or the other, but I mean, Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney have endorsed Kamala Harris, essentially, and you could argue they're farther to the right.
Sure.
And neither one of them is in office, and Mitt Romney is.
You know, one question that I have, and I think I'm going to do some more reporting on this, is whether Mitt Romney or other Republicans like him have heard from the Harris camp. You know, my impression is that he has not, at least, months ago when we talked, that the Democratic campaign wasn't knocking down his door asking for an endorsement. Maybe that's changed, and I'll look into it. But I would be curious if Kamala Harris would welcome that endorsement from Mitt Romney.
Interesting. So Romney says in this afterward that he is looking forward to a post-Trump era. Who leads that party? Who leads the post? Let's assume, just for the sake of argument, and I am not saying I think this is what's going to happen. Let's say Donald Trump loses and actually decides to go softly into that good night. Mm-hmm. Who leads the Republican Party after that?
Oh, I don't think we have any idea. The question that people like Mitt Romney have is, does the fever break, to use an overused cliche in Washington these days, when Trump finally does disappear?
These days, Obama was talking about the fever breaking because of Mitt Romney.
That's right, the Tea Party, yeah. But look, I think that Mitt Romney is hopeful that if Trump goes away, a lot of the kind of personality cult stuff in the Republican Party will go away with it. That a lot of the outrageous defenses of everything that Trump does and says, that will at least go away. But the Republican Party is also ideologically transformed under Trump.
Yeah,
It's
they
become-
like tariffs now.
That's
and-
right. It's more isolationist.
Yeah.
It's more nationalistic. It's more populist. They're not very concerned about the size and scope of government anymore. That's the stuff that brought Mitt Romney to the Republican Party.
Right.
And, I think that he and Republicans like him are going to have a hard time if that ideological transformation stays in place after Trump.
I mean, maybe Cheney and Romney and the others can form a new conservative party.
I think Mitt Romney would be very interested in that.
All right, McKay Coppins, great stuff. Thank you so much. Always good to have you on the show.